Hello and welcome to this video, and I shall be telling you my top 37 for Eurovision 2024 2 weeks before the show, before the rehearsals.
A disclaimer. I hadn't addressed this before because I had hoped that the EBU would come to the correct decision by now, but since they have not, I do need to address it myself. Israel should not be allowed to participate at the Eurovision Song Contest 2024. If Russia hadn't been banned in 2022, maybe we'd be having a different conversation right now, and on a personal note, maybe Eurovision wouldn't have become such an important part of my life, but this is the reality that we are living in, so this is the conversation that we are having. Regardless of what you think of the current atrocities happening in Gaza, intentionally cutting off other people's access to food, water, and electricity is abhorrent, not to mention the act of killing. If you think governments and broadcasters should be considered as separate entities, consider the situation with Russia again. There is a video explaining why Israel shouldn't be allowed to participate linked in the description, and the creator also calls to action about what you can do yourself. Please watch that video and do something. Further resources are also listed as and when they become relevant. I'll stop talking about this when it stops being relevant.
I have got my whiteboard set up, it's ready to go so that I can put the hearts hopefully approximately equally spaced out, going from 37 over there, across towards me, and then back up again towards number 1 just above me. My hair does not want to cooperate today, so just pretend this is lying flat. And it is time to film this video because it's just before the rehearsals get going. The official CD has arrived and my badge that comes with it and my armband. Feels crazy that the show will be over so soon for the year. I'm going to try and film this in as concise a way as possible, so I have to do as little editing as possible because last time I filmed a top 37 it took way too long to edit. Robin, don't do that. So I'll try and keep it fairly concise, and if I stumble over my words a bit I do apologise. This is my top 37 2 weeks before the show, and I will just adjust the camera angle now because there's quite a bit of space above the board but you can't really see Robin. There we go, something like that's better. This might be my most cohesive top 37 for the year, depending on how time works out, if I've got some time to make a top 37 after rehearsals. So I am biased towards Germany because I live here, England because I grew up there, and Poland because I was born there. I'm probably biased towards Italy because I love the language. I have also studied French. I understand Spanish without actively having studied it ever really, just through TV shows and pop culture and stuff and the other languages. I am also a massive fan of Joker Out right now, and Slovene is a language that has fascinated me ever since LPS were at Eurovision, so I will probably also have a slight soft spot towards Slovene, Serbian, Croatian, and so on and so forth. I am filming this video with a new microphone that I bought brand new for an exciting opportunity coming up soon. I hope it's helping the audio. It might not be though because it's arm's reach away from me and it's not the right kind of microphone for that. And I think those are all the major sort of disclaimers that I would like to get out of the way. So without further ado, let's get on with my top 37 for Eurovision 2024. In my 37th spot, I do have Israel. I still sincerely believe that it is wrong for Israel to be participating at Eurovision 2024. I do believe Eden can sing the song well, and it's a fairly nice ballad, but it's nothing majorly special to me, and the lyrics are still political, in my opinion, despite what the EBU says, so I can't place it higher. I disagree with the song participating in the contest at all. I am sort of morbidly curious as to how it will do. I imagine it probably will go through to the final because you can't go vote against a song, but I am interacting with the song as little as possible this Eurovision season. I also think it's wrong just because apparently Eden won't even be allowed to properly leave the hotel room apart from rehearsals and the shows, which I think also slightly defeats the point of Eurovision for the artists. Not entirely, because you still get the exposure, but I think the class trip kind of vibe is half of the fun, or approximately half of the fun. So I also do, in a way, feel sorry for her. In the 36th spot, I've got Azerbaijan. This song I also think probably shouldn't be in the contest this year and a few of the previous years where I was not well enough educated on the topic. I do slightly prefer Ojluna Par to Hurricane, however it is still far from a favourite song of mine anyway, and I'm treating these two songs as a separate kind of category to the rest this year. That's what I'm choosing to do to enjoy Eurovision 2024, and neither of these songs would be in the top half of my ranking without their circumstance anyway. In the 35th spot, I've got Moldova. I just truly do not understand the appeal of this song. In the middle feels like nothing special at all to me. I think Natalia Barbu performs it very well, and very professionally, and I do know that Moldova does tend to have great stagings. I just still do not see the appeal personally, even after having heard it live. In my 34th spot, I've got Cyprus. I do think the song is very competently performed by Celia Kapsis, but Lyre just doesn't really do it for me at all. I do tend to get slightly annoyed by the song almost the more I listen to it, the more time I spend with it. The lyrics are very, very basic and not really anything I can enjoy, but I do admit that Celia performs it very, very competently, especially at her age, and I'm very curious to see how she does, and if she ever returns to Eurovision, and potentially even does very, very well with even more experience behind her, even though she's already pretty experienced for her age. In the 33rd spot, I've got Greece. This may be a controversial opinion, I'm aware of that. Zari is very beloved, and I understand how someone could come to love it, but to me it feels much too disjointed to properly enjoy. I do appreciate that it is very much modern Greek culture, and I applaud Marina Sati for that. I think she's doing a brilliant job representing Greece, but the song isn't something that I can truly enjoy myself, unfortunately. However, I'm so curious about their staging, considering it's meant to be done in one shot and the camera will be following Marina and dancers around the stage, and apparently the crowd will only be shown near the end of the performance, which I imagined would be the case, so you can't really call it a single shot performance, but I am curious about the general concept anyway, and excited to see how this ultra Greek music video will be translated to the Eurovision stage. In the 32nd spot, I've got Malta. I do enjoy Loop now more than I did when it was initially released as a Eurovision song, or even for the Maltese national selection back in October, but I don't particularly love it anyway. I think Sara Bonici performs it very, very professionally, and I can only applaud her for doing the full dance performance at the Eurovision pre-parties. I am so amazed by that. However, the song is very, very similar to Slow Mo by Chanel in my eyes anyway, and I don't enjoy that type of song generally anyway. I had Slow Mo very, very low down in my list in 2022, I think maybe even 34th or something, before seeing the performance, and this song is a similar kind of song that I just don't personally find massive enjoyment in, but Sara Bonici performs it very well, and she seems very sweet, and going to Eurovision does seem like her dream, so I'm very excited for her that she gets to fulfill it. In the 31st spot, I've got Latvia. As of filming, Dons was just on a live stream with Marina Sati yesterday, and it was very enjoyable. I loved hearing their conversation. It was very, very fun, and I think he's so charismatic. He is an amazing class clown almost for the year, not entirely, because I think there's some other people that have got that base more directly covered, but he's bringing so much entertainment value to this year's Eurovision, and his song is also greatly sung. I'm not a massive fan of the song itself. It's a bit too slow for me. The lyrics are a bit too religiously connotated, I would say, but he sings it very well, and I'm curious to see if the staging will at all get elevated for the Eurovision stage, if it will get Latvia out of their 6-year non-qualification streak, which would be brilliant. In the 30th spot, I've got Albania. This song has unfortunately fairly drastically fallen in my rankings. I loved it much, much more as Remrendor as I do as it is Titan. It is a very basic song now, and the production near the end seems so chaotic and too much, not in such a professional way as Zari, but the song on the whole I do prefer more. It's a slightly more basic pop song that I can get behind somewhat, but Remrendora had an extra special spark, especially with the live orchestra, that Titan doesn't for me, so unfortunately it's staying fairly low down in my ranking. In the 29th spot, I've got Denmark. Saba performs this song brilliantly every single time. I'm very impressed with her, and I think she deserves to be on the Eurovision stage. She has a very cool light show that goes along with Sand, but the song itself is, once again, pretty basic and nothing that I particularly enjoy. I do like it a little bit more. There's moments where it hooks me properly, but most of the time I think it's just fairly bland, and I wouldn't seek it out when putting songs on, but I wouldn't really skip it either. I'm excited to see if the stage show will be much different for the Eurovision stage, or if it kind of will stay similar to what Saba did in Dance Melody Grand Prix, and I'm excited to see how she will do as well, because there's a lot of fans who seem to really, really love this song, which I can't quite understand, but I would love to be proven wrong and fall in love with the song during Eurovision week. In the 28th spot, I've got Iceland. Scared of Heights has actually been growing on me quite a bit, and I'm very impressed by it, to be honest. Well, I'm very impressed by how Hedda Bjork performs it. She gives it so much energy, and it's great to have a Eurovision queen back at Eurovision. The song itself is really nothing particularly special though, and she explains the lyrics in a much nicer way than I would ever give it credit for, personally, which does make me like the song slightly more because she can sell it, I guess. But it's still nothing particularly special to me, and if it makes it to the final I'll be fairly surprised, but honestly, there's very few songs that, if they make it to the final this year, I'll be truly shocked, because I think staging can change everything at this point. In the 27th spot, I've got Serbia. This song is probably a few spaces higher than it naturally would have been in my ranking if I hadn't been fairly active in learning Slovene the past year. I do really like how Teodora performs it. I think the song has a very nice meaning for Serbians, and I'm very happy that they get to be represented with a song that's actually got national meaning behind it, unlike most Eurovision songs. I would argue there's always a few every year, but they tend to be the exception, not the rule. And I'm still concerned about the thing that I was concerned about initially when the song was chosen, as to whether non-Eurovision fans, non-Serbian speakers will be able to pick up on the true meaning of the song and hence understand its beauty. They'll definitely understand the beauty of the performance, it's just whether that's enough for it to qualify. I think this could be one of our shock non-qualifiers. However, if it does qualify, I imagine it could do pretty well with the jury, considering it's in Serbian and not English, because it's such a professional performance each time, and Teodora is a rising star or a risen star in Serbia. In the 26th spot, I've got Portugal. This ranking may slightly be influenced by the fact that I did a Zoom interview with Yolanda for Eurovision Insider. If you'd like to watch it, I've hopefully linked it in the iCard over there. However, since the song being chosen in Festival da Canção, I have gotten to understand the meaning much more on my own anyway, even before I did the interview. And over the last few days or weeks, it has really grown on me naturally as well. I think the meaning is brilliant. However, the song itself, melodically, instrumentally, isn't my favourite. I recognise also that Yolanda performs it brilliantly, but I don't know that non-Portuguese speakers will be able to get the meaning from the song. My grandma, when listening to songs, because on car rides in April I do tend to make my family listen to all 37 Eurovision songs, or all the songs for Eurovision that year. This is the only song my grandma said this about, because she doesn't really understand English or any of the other languages, and none of the songs are in Polish this year. Said, you can really tell she's telling a story about this song, and I did not get that impression when I first listened to it and saw it on stage. She only listened to it. So maybe there is a tone to Yolanda's voice that I could not pick up on that does tell people that, in which case great for her. I would love for this to be in the final, because we need that bit of variation, and I do have a few ballads lower down on the list. And I'm also very excited to see what the final staging will look like. In the interview, Yolanda did say that the staging will be, I don't remember her exact phrasing, but something along the lines of amped up for the bigger stage, because it is bigger, but largely true to form of Festival da Canção. So I'm curious about what the actual changes will be. In the 25th spot, I've got Ukraine. This song has actually kind of grown on me, surprisingly. I think Aliona and Jerry Hall are getting much better at performing as a duo and not two great artists on the same stage. And I really think that they do perform it brilliantly. The song itself, not a massive fan of again. It's one of my favourite true ballads this year, but I'm not a massive fan of the slightly religious undertones of the lyrics and of choosing Mother Teresa as an icon. But Aliona has said in an interview that it's just because in Ukraine, if you ask someone who is the epitome of kindness, they would likely say Mother Teresa, and I think that would be the case in a lot of countries, despite the controversy surrounding her. And I understand that. Still could have probably chosen someone else, but I understand why Mother Teresa was chosen. I am curious about what their final staging and outfits will look like. I imagine we'll stay in this black and white region for the outfits, but the staging could be significantly changed. I'm not sure yet, because obviously I'm filming this way before rehearsals and uploading it hopefully on the days that rehearsal starts, on the 27th of April. But I do hope for a slight change so it's not all so dark, so that you can pick up on more of the nuances of what's happening on stage. In the 24th spot, I've got Georgia. Firefighter has kind of snuck up on me. I didn't think I'd have it this high up, because I know it's not amongst my favourite songs, but I do still enjoy it much more than I expected to. It's I would argue, the best performed of the proper girly bops that we've got this year, and Nordza just does it so well every single time, even being alone on stage, and it's a really, really professional pop song. I hope this qualifies. I think it really deserves to break Georgia's 6-year non-qualification streak, but we will have to see in about 2 weeks. In the 23rd spot, I've got Ireland. Robin, please don't eat my hands. Okay. Bambi Thug performs this like a master. I understand why they call themselves a witch. It's really masterful how they perform the song, and I think I wanted to enjoy it more than I did. It has fallen fairly drastically in my rankings, not massively, but still noticeably. And I like the concept, I really do, but unfortunately, as time goes on, something's lacking to me in the execution, and I can't quite place what it is. Ireland is twisting. How exciting. I am so curious to see how this will do. I hope it qualifies to the grand final because it will really spice things up. It will be a true standout, and I'd love it in the final. But we need to see what the final staging looks like. Bambi Thug has complained that RTE is fairly poor, which is why they couldn't be at the pre-parties for multiple days, like to Amsterdam. They apparently just flew in on the morning of, which some other artists also did, but Bambi didn't want to be doing that, and I don't know if the staging can be great. I hope so, because Bambi Thug seems like a very creative person, and they seem to know what their vision is. I don't know if together with RTE they can make that vision come to fruition, but I really hope so, because I'd love to see this in full effect on the Eurovision stage. In the 22nd spot, I've got Poland. I really fairly enjoy The Tower. I think it's a very nice song. A lot of people saying it's pretty modern. I'm not sure that I would necessarily call it that. I think it's a bit faster paced than it needs to be, which is maybe what's making people think that, because of the like 120% remixes and whatnot, Nightcore or whatever. But I quite enjoy it. I can hear it on the Polish radio and recognise it within the first 2 seconds probably, or less than that, and Luna is another person who seems to know what they want. She really seems to have a grasp on her creative vision and how she wants to be presented, so I'm hoping the staging can be something that really blows me away, because every outfit Luna's been in has been coordinated to the fingernails or to the jewellery or whatever, to the tippy toes, I don't know, and I hope that same level of care can be put into the full staging. It's a very tough quarter or a very tough half of the semi-final, so I don't know that Luna can make it to the final, but if she does, it will be entirely on her merit. It's not just the diaspora helping, because it's the hardest quarter, I would argue, to get out of. In the 21st spot, I've got Czechia. I have grown to enjoy Pedestal quite a bit more than I did initially, maybe. However, I am wondering if this is kind of an effect that the ESCZ version was fairly bad. So everything that we've seen since then, including the pre-parties, has been much better than that. So I wonder if its value in my ranking is slightly overinflated. I find that very difficult to judge though. And I'm very curious to see how this will go down as well, because I like the song. It's a rocky song, it's got a good message to it. Aiko sells it fairly well, I think, and I'm curious how that will translate to general audiences watching the semi-finals in a few weeks. Hello, Robin. Love you. Hi. In the 20th spot, I've got Armenia. I think Žako is really great for Eurovision. It's so authentic to Armenia, seemingly, and it's got a really fun energy. They perform it very well, it seems, as well. And I think they just really look like they're having fun with the song. The song is also very fun. Another one that I really hope makes it to the final, because this kind of fun party atmosphere, authentic to the culture, isn't something we've got loads of this year. Not quite to the same level of energy anyway. The only reason it's fairly low down in my list, I'd argue, for how much I think I enjoy every time I listen to it, is that it is fairly repetitive, and I don't know if that will be remedied by having a fairly changing staging or not, but I'm very excited to see it on the stage in Malmö. I know I repeat myself about that quite often, but it is the truth. Why are you hiding behind my arm? Okay. In the 19th spot, I've got Germany. I really enjoy Always on the Run. I think it's such a great song in general, I don't think it will do particularly well at Eurovision unless Isaac manages to magic up some staging that we would not usually expect from Germany. However, on the radio, it's something I would really bop along to, and I think he's done a great job. His voice is probably the best part of the song, so I'm excited to have it be properly live at Eurovision as well. I'm very happy that we're not having more backing vocally rules being changed or added. I think it's a great thing to hear this song live. And while it's a more radio-friendly song than a true Eurovision-style song, I really, really enjoy it, and I'm happy for Isaac that he gets to represent Germany at Eurovision. In the 18th spot, I've got Australia. I do really quite enjoy One Milkalai, and I'm excited to hear it live in Malmahagen. The way they perform together on stage seems to be very enthralling, and I'm curious to see how it will look because Zachariah has a lot more singing to do than Michael. I just think it's one of the best sort of poppy songs that we've got. The didgeridoo really adds something to it, and I love the physicsy, mathsy, naturey, spiritually at times references in the song. It feels like almost a timeless song at some moments, and I really, really enjoy listening to it. In the 17th spot, I've got the UK. I wanted to love this way more than I did when it was initially released, and I think I did overinflate it slightly at the beginning. This is more of its true position. I really love Ollie Alexander as a performer. I think he always does such a great job. The song is a little bit too basic for me compared to what I was really expecting, and I still really enjoy it, hence why it's fairly high up, but it's not quite what I would have hoped for from Ollie Alexander. I'm still very excited about the staging because I'm sure he'll give it a brilliant performance, and I'm curious about if there will be spinning platforms because I can't imagine that he'll be doing anything else for being dizzy, but we'll have to wait and see, and I'm very excited to see that indeed. In the 16th spot, I've got Luxembourg. I think this is a very nice return for Luxembourg to the contest, and putting them in the last running order slot is almost certainly an attempt to allow them to qualify so they don't withdraw in the following years, as they are a fairly rich country. However, I think this deserves a spot in the final. I'm sure the staging will be better than it was at LESC. It will have to be slightly different at least because there were 7 people on stage at LESC and that's not allowed at Eurovision. I just called it LESC twice, it is just LSC, Luxembourg Song Contest. I really, really like the French bits of the song. The English parts are fine, but the runs at the end of the chorus I really, really enjoy, and I think the overall lyrics in French sound really cool as well. I understand the meaning of it. So I know they're somewhat basic in terms of you're a fighter, gonna get through this, time to get your life together a little bit, but in a way less drastic way than usual fighting. However, I think they're really, really fun to sing along to in French, so I enjoy the song for that aspect of it, and it's a very nice song to have in the repertoire this year for Eurovision. In the 15th spot, I've got Austria. This is my most guilty pleasure style song this year. I did not expect to have it high up in my rankings at all. So this is a true surprise for me compared to when it was initially released. I think Colleen can be very, very charismatic, and there are moments where she's almost verging on annoying me in a similar way to Blanca from last year. But most of the time she doesn't actually cross that line, and I think she's just pretty fun. I'm so curious about the staging due to her experience at Eurovision as stand-in and stage director or something and choreographer. I think it will have to be an epic show. There's a lot of people saying it could be a shock non-qualifier. I think almost anything would be a shock non-qualifier to me. I can see a way in which almost anyone will qualify. The only song that I'm truly unsure of qualifying is Moldova, and even then they know how to do their staging. So I truly do not know who will be qualifying. I am so unsure after the pre-parties. However, due to Kaline's experience, I see it as a very unlikely shock non-qualifier. But we'll have to wait and see. The song shouldn't be something that I like on the surface, and yet, even without Kaline's charisma and experience at Eurovision, for some reason I do really enjoy it sometimes. And I don't think it should win, or that it will, but I just really enjoy it way more than I should. And it almost annoys me because of that as well, but it doesn't quite. I think it's just really, really fun to listen to. In the 14th spot, I've got Estonia. This is another very, very fun song. I think the collaboration between the two bands is genius. And I would almost say it's something that can't work outside of Eurovision, but clearly it has because they have already worked together and they're releasing a full album after Eurovision. So there's something there, and I think the reason I was going to say that it couldn't work outside of Eurovision is because it's in Estonian. So outside of Estonia and maybe Finland and surrounding regions, it probably couldn't work outside of Eurovision, but in Estonia it seems to. And I'm very excited for them. It seems like a really, really fun song to have representing your country at Eurovision. I like the tongue-in-cheek nature of it. I said at one point that I don't think I agree with the suits as their outfits, but then at the Nordic pre-party I believe they wore more street clothes, and I think the suits do work better with that contrast between the meaning of the lyrics and their presence on stage. I think I do prefer the suits. We'll have to see what they're actually wearing, but I think they do a great job every time, and it's just a really fun song to listen to. I love listening to more niche languages in Europe. I don't really have that much contact with Estonian or almost any outside of Eurovision, so it's really fun to have it in this song, and I just really, really have a good time every time I listen to it. In the 13th spot, I've got Finland. This has actually fallen fairly drastically in my rankings, which might surprise some people because a lot of people don't seem to like it very much. Maybe some people are still a bit mad that Pascana didn't win, and to be honest, I have thought about that song recently again, and it has been stuck in my head, despite not having listened to it properly again since UMK. So there is something there. But I think it's sunken in my rankings because I'm not as initially shocked and entertained by the initial performance as I was when I did see it for the first time, which won't be a problem for the majority of Eurovision viewers, so I think this could do a lot better than most people are expecting it to. I do concede that there are a lot of televote magnet songs this year, but this one is the most out there in terms of staging that we know of so far, and I think the bones of the song are also pretty good. Like, I really enjoy listening to the song by itself as well, even without the staging and without knowing what the staging's like. It was my number one for UMK, unashamedly, before watching the performances, so I do like the song. I'm worried this could be a Shogun qualifier, which would be really crazy in a televote only semi-final, but you just never know sometimes. I think it probably will be in the final and then probably stick around the 20s, to be honest, but I do also see a world in which it does way better than people expect. And I think the initial shock has kind of worn off of me, and I still enjoy listening to the song, but the staging certainly elevates it, which you can notice in the pre-party performances. I love the song. I think the guys perform it very well, but you could notice the performance in Amsterdam when I was there at the Eurovision concert felt slightly chaotic and maybe unrehearsed. I imagine they did rehearse it, but it didn't really feel like it, which was maybe also part of the point. Maybe part of the point is to laugh at them, I don't know, but it definitely works better with its intended staging. In the 12th spot, I've got Norway. This song I didn't expect to have particularly high up on my list. I do like it. I like rock, and I think they do a great job. I like that it's in Norwegian, and the style of singing that she does sometimes verge on irritating me, and maybe even on occasion does. But most of the time, I just really like how original this song feels in Eurovision. It's not the most groundbreaking piece of rock, but the combo of rock and Thousand-Year-Old Tale and the Norwegian style of singing is pretty impressive and great for Eurovision. And I was particularly impressed at Eurovision in concert, seeing them live. I think if they were to ever come and do a concert in Hamburg and the tickets were fairly cheap or cheap enough for me, I would genuinely consider seeing them live, even without having heard many more of their songs and not knowing Norwegian. I was truly impressed by them in Amsterdam. So congratulations to Goethe. I think Ulveham is pretty great, and I am very impressed that you're bringing this to Eurovision. This would be a true Shockland qualifier to me, but I once again can also see that happening because I truly do not know who will be qualifying. It seems like everyone could. In the 11th spot, I've got the Netherlands. There was a moment in time where I thought this would keep climbing and climbing my rankings and settling very near the top. That hasn't happened yet, but I think it's a brilliant song for Eurovision with the uniting Europe message and the deeper message of his parents. I think Joost is a very entertaining performer, and I loved seeing him on home turf in Eurovision in concert. I wouldn't be particularly mad if this did win. I think it would be a deserved win, especially with all his smart social media campaigning. Not that that's the only reason that it should or could win, because I've also heard some crazy rumours about the staging. Sentences such as, you didn't even know this would be possible at Eurovision, and something about flying. So it could be a truly wild ride for everyone, and I'm very curious to see it. I think this is the staging I'm second most curious about, to be honest, now, pre-rehearsals. So I can't wait to actually see it and have this video to look back on in the state that I don't know what the staging will look like. I also like that the song is in Dutch, that it's not sailing out and being in English, because I understand much more of it than I realistically should from knowing German, and it gives it that extra spark, to be honest, that I think Eurovision songs often need. And especially recently there have been more and more non-English singing winners, so I think it's not impossible for it to win. I would prefer other winners, obviously, there's 10 more songs to come, but I'd understand it as well if this did win. I've heard some varying opinions. There have been some people on YouTube who are saying they know Dutch people who think he can't win, who are a bit worried about him not winning, don't want to get their hopes up. But the atmosphere at Eurovision concert, and while I was in Amsterdam, was quite the contrary. Like, I really had the feeling that everyone thought they were going to win. Even the receptionists at the hotel were convinced that the Netherlands would win. They were telling me that when the Netherlands wins, think of me. So I guess I'll have to if they do, but it's not a when, it's an if for me. My camera appears to have run out of some battery, and I have got something that I would need to do right now at this time, so unfortunately the camera angle might change once I come back for my top 10. I apologise for that, but I hope it won't change too much. In the 10th spot, I've got Slovenia. Considering the almost impossibly high expectations that I had for this song, I think 10th spot is still brilliant. Raven is an absolutely fantastic singer, and along with Matea, who's been at the pre-parties, and the other 4 dancers, I'm sure the performance will be spectacular. I love Slovene, and I think the part, as I have been saying for the past 3 months, where Raven sings Ja sam ti si Veronica, will be permanently in my brain for the rest of existence. Apparently written by Bojan Cvetianin, so I cannot forgive him for that, with love. I just love listening to Veronica. It's not in my upper favourites, but it's such a great song. So entertaining to listen to, and I'm sure the performance will be spectacular to go along with it, along with an important message. In the 9th spot, I've got Sweden. I am once again shocked that this has gotten so far up. I do really enjoy their performance, but recently also just listening to the song has been great, and they're both very charismatic as well. But I just think that the song, if it didn't end so abruptly, would also have gotten a higher ranking from me. 9th is still very, very high, but without an abrupt ending, I think it could have gone even higher a few spots. And I'm so excited for this to be a show opener. I don't think this would have realistically won anyway, so having one of the most professional songs opening the grand final is brilliant, and I'm very, very excited for that. It's going to be a real party starter, and I think it's very, very fun that Marcos and Martinez do get to go this year after realistically deserving to have gone last year. Unfortunately, they attempted to go to Eurovision in the same year as Loreen. In the 8th spot, I do now have Spain. This was a little bit higher up on my list. I do still really, really love it, and I think it's going to be also a party at the Eurovision final. However, I realise it's maybe not sung the best and everything, and, you know, there's a lot of people who kind of do dislike it. I really, really, really like it. I think it's just so much fun, and they look like they're having so much fun on stage, and it's a really, really great show, and I can't wait to see it on the stage in Malmö to see if it gets even better for me. Unfortunately, my camera does not allow for swapping the batteries while the camera's on the tripod, hence the angle might be changed a little bit. In the 7th spot, I've got San Marino. This is the highest it's gotten for me this Eurovision season, and honestly I'm a little bit surprised, but not really, because it is right up my alley, despite not really being loved by almost anyone else. And I'm very happy for Magara to be in Eurovision 2024, and I just really, really like it. I do have a slight weakness for Spanish, but not nearly as massive as I do for Italian. And I like rock. This is rock. And it's also just great. I like it. And they've got a really distinct visual identity with the black and the pink. I just really have fun listening to the song. and it's got that slight Violetta twang about it that I can't quite put a finger on, but definitely is there to me anyway. Yeah, I love listening to it, genuinely, and I so hope this makes it to the final. It deserves to make it to the final, in my opinion. I think it's professional enough, but I'm not sure whether that will be the case. It's a very, very tough semi-final to predict, both of them, this year, and I mean, realistically, it's probably not, but I will be very pleasantly surprised if they do, because I love it. I love listening to it. In the 6th spot, I've got Italy. This has now slightly risen for me. I really, really enjoyed seeing it live at Eurovision in concert, and I love Italian, and I have now also finally gotten over the hump that the song did at times slightly start to almost annoy me. It wasn't actually annoying me, but there were moments where I was listening to it and I wasn't quite sure if I love it quite as much as I usually do when listening to it, and those just did sporadically come and go. Now I am enjoying it every time I listen to it, and it is just brilliant. I love it. It's so unique, and this time it doesn't feel like it's incoherent to me. I don't know what the difference between La Noia and Zari is in that sense, because on the surface, to me, without proper true musical training, they feel like the same kind of amount of disjointed, but I don't know, I really, really like listening to it, and it's my number 6 for now. And also, obviously, Angelina Mango just performs it, and she really sells it as well. In the 5th spot, I've got France. I don't know what I have to say about this song. It was the first song released this year, and it's just so brilliant. It's a very basic French ballad on the surface, but the way Slimane performs it, he also really sells it, and I love singing along to it. And I just don't know why it's gotten this far up, because it is fairly basic for a French ballad, but I just can't help but love listening to it, and that's why it's gotten so far up. I'm very curious about the final staging, if we are still seeing the mirror ball shut in some variation, if he is going to stand 2 meters away from the microphone, if it will just be dark and moody in the background, or if we're going to see some actual colour, who knows. I don't know, and I'm very excited to see it, and I think it's just a truly necessary ballad to have at Eurovision, this very basic French ballad thing. Almost every year there's one, and if France isn't doing it, maybe Italy is. It's a necessary part of the package every year. In the 4th spot, I've got Lithuania. This also surprised me that it's fairly high up in my list. I'm now used to it, but after it was chosen, I didn't think it would get this far up. It's just such a bob, and Sylvester Bell really, really performs it. I'm so excited to see it on the stage in Malmö with the dancers again. Maybe even in Copenhagen, who knows. And it's so cool that it's in Lithuanian, another language I don't really have much contact with outside of Eurovision, which is also very cool, and I like the meaning behind it, and I think it's a meaning that you could also transfer your own meaning onto about anything you have to wait for, if you wanted to. It's just so slick as well in its performance, and the song itself I also love listening to. I didn't think this is the kind of music that I'd like. A lot of these songs, like Sweden, like Austria, this dancey stuff with heavy beats, or to me heavy beats, isn't the kind of stuff I ever thought I'd really, really like. But Eurovision is teaching me to appreciate everything, and that's part of the reason I love Eurovision, because I wouldn't have found most of these songs otherwise, basically all of them. It's just brilliant, and I love listening to it, and I hope he gets in the top 10, because he really deserves it for me. In his Instagram post for Eurovision, he did say he's ready to be crowned in Malmö. I wouldn't be mad. I don't think it's particularly likely, but I mean, if it happens, that'd also be really cool. I'm down to go to Vilnius in 2025. In the 3rd spot, I've got Belgium. Now, I say that so dramatically because for 2 months this was my number 1. And I thought it'd stay my number 1. This is also the first time ever for me as a Eurovision fan that my number 1 has changed. So I'm pretty shook up about it. But it's what needed to happen. I still love listening to the song. Musti is a great performer with lots of energy. And the song, I think, really is great with its build towards the crescendo. I know a lot of people complain about it, but I really, really love it. The payoff is so rewarding after waiting for it, but you do need to wait for it, so I don't know if general audiences will. And Regarding Musti's energy, I think it is too much in the performances he's been doing so far. I would really much rather see something more subdued on the Eurovision stage for the first at least minute, ideally 2, and then that burst of energy. I think that would be way more effective. He has been getting better about it. I don't know if it will be polished up enough for the semi-final for him to do particularly well. I don't see him not qualifying, but I'd like to see it more and more polished and really subdued in the minute or 2 at the start of the song, so that the final explosion with his arms open wide at the end and screaming before the party's over, or you've got a soul on fire, you're gonna make moves tonight. I am saying you intentionally because that's what he's been doing at the pre-parties. I imagine that's not what will happen on the Eurovision stage, but you never know. So that that moment can truly shine, be an epic finale to the song, and not just this high energy thing throughout that, for me, doesn't match the song. If that's what Musti wants, that's what he can do. It's his prerogative, but I would much prefer the first minute or 2 to be subdued. And then maybe it'll become my number 1 again, who knows. We still need to see the full staging of everyone. I do really hope I can film another top 37 before the semi-finals, but I don't know if I'll have the time, honestly. So for the moment, without final stagings, Belgium has become my number 3. In the second spot, I've got Croatia. This hasn't changed. I love Vadim Tim Tagidim. I am still utterly obsessed with this being a Eurovision song. The story is relatable to so many people across Europe. He has been getting so good at performing it. I don't think this is similar to Aiko at all. I think he genuinely is really good. He's working with like the best opera singer in Croatia or something, and she's really teaching him well. So I love how Rim Titeki is performed. I would love to see it maybe slightly more polished, obviously, in Malmo than it was at the Doro final, but I imagine it will be, because the dancers haven't been there at the pre-parties, which is completely fair enough, and I imagine they'll be there on the Eurovision stage, but who knows. Obviously the cats are great. My initial idea from my first reaction to the live performance still stands. I would love to see 3D holographic cats on the screen as well. I don't know if that's at all practical to do on the stage, but with visual effects it's totally doable for the screen, which is ultimately the performance that most people are going to be seeing, either on stage or in the crowd. My initial idea was actually within the crowd to have them mixed in there, but that could be practically more difficult than having holographic 3D cats on stage, which I would be absolutely enamored with. I think that needs to happen. If anyone from the team is watching this video now, which I really doubt, I think it's probably too late to change it anyway, but I'd love it. It would be such a magical story if this does win. I can see it winning. I don't think it's the most likely option right now, though, and I'm shocked to say that the most likely winner is also my winner right now, which hasn't happened before either. And if you've not worked it out by now, my number 1 is Switzerland. Ooh, that's so weird, not seeing Belgium in number 1. Or Slovenia, I guess, as the past 2 years have been. I am truly shocked that the most likely winner, according to betting odds as of right now, is also my winner currently. But this song has grown massively on me. I think it's jumped up 8 or 9 spots in total as compared to when I first made it full top 37. Nemo is an excellent performer, and I'm not just doing this because I want to be on the right side, on the side of the winner, whatever. That's not the goal here at all. But when listening to The Code live in Amsterdam, I did have a basically magical experience, and it felt like a sort of gut feeling, but even deeper, I felt it in my bones that Switzerland would win Eurovision 2024. I'm not saying that I'm as confident in that right now, but in the moment, I was totally convinced. So props to Nemo for being able to perform like that. I think the song is great on so many levels. I also love singing along to this one. I don't know that I can. I don't know that I'm hitting any of the notes, but I'm having fun. It's such a wild mix of genres. I didn't think I'd ever be able to get used to it, and now it's my number 1. I'm in shock. It feels like Nemo is casting some kind of magical spell. Like maybe they're a witch as well. Like they just do it so well. I'm so impressed. And I am near speechless, honestly, but the song has a very personal meaning that you don't need to pick up on if you don't want to. You could just understand that this person feels very confident in themselves now that they've learned to do that. You don't need to understand the true meaning of the song, and I think that won't hurt its chances, honestly. I don't necessarily see this winning either jury or televote, but coming second or third in either or both could be enough this year, with very split voting of televote and jury favourites. Could happen. I could see a similar situation happening with Italy as well, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here for why it is my number one. And yeah, I just love singing along to it. The performance was magical, the message is very cool, and Nemo has convinced me that they can do it, that they can win, which isn't the only reason it's my number one, but they also just seem like such a great artist, and I honestly have thought multiple times throughout this Eurovision season, why aren't they an international star already? Like, I understand they've won awards, like 5 awards in Switzerland by the time they were 18, but I'd figure someone with so much talent could be an international star already, and they're not. So, I'm so honoured to have the pleasure of enjoying Eurovision season as we see a potential star in the making, which is the case for a lot of these artists, not just Nemo, but to me, they're the most obvious one who, like, you know, if you were to chuck into a Coachella lineup after a few months of songs circling TikTok, I would totally see them up on that stage. Not that I promote the idea that the best music is created in the United States of America or whatever, but that is where a lot of the world music that's consumed at a larger scale gets promoted and created, so that's what people are currently expecting, hence the idea of throwing Nemo on the Coachella stage. And also because it was just Coachella recently. Not that I follow it very closely, but there have been some Sabrina Carpenter and Chappell Rowan videos show up on my feed. Oh no, Switzerland is falling! Ugh. There we go, back. Oh no, now it's glaring. Back at number 1. And a little bit higher up. I'm also so curious for Nemo's staging because we've had no real indication at all yet. I imagine they'll be wearing something slightly floofy, but other than that, I've got no idea. If we'll be seeing a kind of train carriage, if we'll be seeing curtainy corridors, if we'll be seeing anything from the music video, if there'll be any kind of stage prop, or if it will just truly be left up to the power that Nemo has as an artist. I do not know. And I imagine it could be none of the above, and yet another surprise that I'm not ready for. And that's so exciting. So yeah, that is my current top 37 as of 2 weeks before the show, before the rehearsals. So I don't even know what the final stagings will look like yet. I'm very excited to find out. And if I don't manage to film another top 37, then this is my official one for the year. I've got some fairly controversial opinions, I think, but this is my true top 37 that I reset in my Eurovision scoreboard app and dragged about again, deciding based on dragging the songs up, and if I would prefer to listen to the song I'm currently holding as compared to the song above it, I would keep dragging the song up until that wasn't the case anymore. So bubble sorting, kind of, and then also looking at the list again, going through the same questions again, but having the full context of the list. I am very excited for this year's Eurovision, and I do not know who the winner will be. I see a lot of scenarios happening. I might still do a winner prediction video, but in a short summary, I can see Switzerland winning, I can see Croatia winning, I can see Belgium winning with some really crazy staging that I'm not expecting, Lithuania same. France I can see winning if, you know, he sweeps the jury vote. Italy I can see winning. San Marino I cannot see winning. With some really wild staging, I could see Slovenia winning. Netherlands could definitely win. The staging is meant to be crazy. Norway could probably win as a very much a compromise winner, but could do it. And then there's a few others. I mean, Ollie Alexander, if he has a properly spectacular show, could do it. Greece could do it with, you know, also an amazing show, which I think is meant to happen, so who knows. Ukraine is still in the running, I think. A lot of people are kind of forgetting about Ukraine at the moment, but I think there's still a chance for it. I mean, if the staging does get elevated, if it's similar to Vidbir, I don't really think so, but Ukraine is very, very good at staging, so I don't see why it wouldn't be elevated. And there's probably still someone I'm forgetting. But those are the main contenders in my eyes right now, which is still a lot of contenders for the win, as compared to previous years, where it felt more obvious, to me anyway, at least. This is the first year that I'm watching Eurovision that I'm truly unsure who the winner will be, and a lot of people wouldn't surprise me. And also the first year where I'm so unsure about who will be qualifying. I've got predictions of what's more likely to happen, but I'm not sure that there would be any shock qualifiers for me, truly. I think everyone could elevate the staging enough to do it. I think Albania has drawn a bad hand in performing second, and I think that's probably unlikely right now, but everyone else, I don't know. So, now that I've gone off on a bit of a tangent about who could win and who could qualify and blah blah blah, take in my top 37 2 weeks before the show one more time. And I would like to thank you ever so much for watching this video. I really do hope that you enjoyed it, that got something out of it. I'll see you in the next one of it that shows up on your feed. Bye!